So it'll be a week tomorrow since I turned the big 6-0. So I'm going to make some videos going forward about this period of my life, my 60s, and do some reflections on what it feels to be at this stage of my life. Thinking about it, I don't feel very much different than I did maybe when I was 25. However, I think if I was to sit down with my 25-year-old self and have a conversation about what the next 35 years are like, I think I would have to tread lightly. Certainly, getting information about what transpires over the next 35 years of your life might be a little eye opening and might be a little depressing, to say the least. Um, Especially if you start talking about all the mistakes that you're going to make in the future. And of course, there's questions about if that were able to happen, whether you would want to reveal all of that to either swing your life, hopefully to swing your life in a positive direction so that you don't make those mistakes. I think maybe it would be wise to speak in generalities. I have a granddaughter that just turned 1. So, if I was to speak to her about the possibilities for her future, of course, I'm not going to mention all the terrible things that can happen to you over the course of your life, all the dangers and all those different things. We know we live in a difficult and dangerous world, and we know all kinds of things happen. There's all kinds of threats, all kinds of situations, but you wouldn't want to scare a person by telling them you have a chance of this happening or a chance of that happening. You just want to speak in generalities to say this is what you have to look forward to, growing up, learning new things, going to school, making friends, doing normal things that kids do, playing, listening to music, playing sports, um, having your first relationships, um, all those things you would want to mention and leave out, the dangers that come with living life from day to day. So I would also not want someone from the future to come to me today and say, this is what the next X number of years looks like, and this is when your life will end. It's a weird time being 60 because I think about all the stages in life, right? My granddaughter is going through her infancy phase. I don't know when that technically ends, but she just turned 1, so she'll be going into, her toddler years, and then living as a child, and then an adolescent, and then a young adult or a teenager, a young adult, an adult, and then we move into the latter stages of being an adult. And I guess the point that I'm at right now is that point where I'm moving into my elder phase, where I am an elder person, which seems so odd because, your whole life you kind of look at other people as being old, and now I'm essentially an old person, an older person, and have to face all the things that come with that. So it's an interesting time. I don't know. I feel like in many ways, I'm on this journey, but it's like when you're on vacation. When I was on vacation this year in July, we started out, we had the anticipation, of course, going on vacation, and then we had to leave and we had to get on airplanes and fly. And so we had that stage of the journey. When we got to our ultimate destination, and we changed to traveling by car, and we had that phase of the trip and saw different things along the way. And then we had a gathering phase where we visited with my son, and then ultimately we came to the point where we had to go back, get on another airplane, and make our way back home. And I think I'm at that stage, where I'm seeing that the vacation is going to be over, right? And just a few more days and a few more airplane rides, and you know, it'll be done. I'll arrive at my destination. So, whether I have a couple more flights to take and then the final flight to wherever, um, we don't know. We never know from day to day, right? We never know. And I've certainly had friends and acquaintances, people I went to school with who are no longer here. And I've had some close calls myself where my life could have ended. So we just never know. A person can live a very short life, or they can live a very long life. We just don't know. We do have some control over it, but even trying to control things, even trying to live perfectly so that we prolong our life as long as possible, we don't have a guarantee on that. We could do everything perfectly, abstain from drinking and bad things like sugar and junk food, and just eat wholesomely and exercise and do all the right things, but it doesn't stop you from getting run over by a bus, um, or having some disease pop up, or something, or just a freak accident, falling down, whatever. So we don't really have control over that. We just have to live with it. And I think my view of sort of what comes after, and my dad and I talked about this a little bit after my mom passed away, was, I wondered, where is mom? Where is mom right now? And I think that, based on religion, I'm a Christian, so based on the way it's portrayed in Christianity, is that, we don't ascend necessarily until the rapture happens, and then we all will get swept up and taken home. I heard a minister preach on that when one of my coworkers died, and he gave a whole sermon about going home, and how they say he's gone home, which, depending on how you look at it, how you've been taught, may not be true. He may not be home, and he may not be home for many years, many decades, many centuries, millennia. Who knows? Until the day that Jesus comes back and the bodies are raised from the graves and we're taken up, or earth, actually, heaven comes down on earth and becomes the new earth, the new heaven on earth. And we all live in peace and harmony and drink Coca-Cola, right? So I believe that we don't just go silent. We're not like a dead cell phone, until somebody plugs us back in again. We, I think we go to exist in the consciousness, the great consciousness of the universe. And I think when we're part of that great consciousness, I think that we then are one mind, and we kind of have this almost godlike omnipotence about things, to where we see things much clearer. And maybe that's the point, that we become perfected, to where our minds become cleared, to where we can see the stark differences between the physical life and the spiritual life. Now, my question to myself is, what about this notion that we've always been taught about good and evil and heaven and hell? And what happens, to those people who have not lived a good life, who have done terrible, terrible things, who were never contributors, they were never beneficial to other people, this planet, to society? What happens to them? And of course, my view would be, instinctively, maybe to say that they get left out. Maybe they are in darkness. Maybe they don't get to share in that collective consciousness. I don't know what purpose that would serve, to keep them in the dark, or whether that's punishment, or certainly you don't want the flip side of saying the good people go to the universal consciousness of good, and the bad people go to the universal consciousness of bad. It's kind of like when you have a criminal and you lock them away with a bunch of other criminals, and they become more of a criminal from the things they learn from all the other criminals that they're incarcerated with, right? You wouldn't want that to happen. So I guess my view of spirituality and theology, or what have you, would be that those people maybe don't partake in this consciousness, left in the dark, or maybe they do fall into that lake of burning sulfur, or what have you, that is the negativity of the world, the harmful thoughts and despair, and they have to be exposed to that for the rest of their life. Maybe they have to feel the pain that they inflicted on others while they were still alive for eternity. It sounds really, really bad. And even the worst person, I don't know if I would wish that upon them. But I don't want to get too much into it. I don't want to think too much about that. But I do think that we do, when we die, we pass into this other realm of whatever, light, energy, consciousness, what have you. I think certainly my sister talks about being instructed by my parents on certain things, hearing that small voice say, "Don't go here," or "Go in a different direction," or "Look here for something that's lost." I think I've experienced some of that myself. Certainly after my dad passed away, I was tasked with, we were trying to get the house straightened up and cleaned out and spruced up so that we could put it on the market. And my parents had this little gazebo in the backyard, and it was really in need of some attention. So we decided that we would paint it. And I was painting it with a brush, and it was taking a long time. And, gazebo is a lot of railings, and every railing has multiple sides that you have to paint, and then you've got to get up high, and there was multiple sections, when you've got a multi-section roof, and there's just a lot to paint. And then this voice came to me and said, there's a paint sprayer in the garage that could really help you out. And it was like, okay, yeah, thanks, Dad. That's a good idea. And so I got the paint sprayer and really made quick work of, especially going around those railings and things like that, and getting up high and spraying the roof portions. So it made quick work of it, and I was happy to get it done and not have it be a ongoing project when we had so much else to do. So I'm going to share more as we go along about being in the 60s. And if you have some comments about what the 60s are like for you, certainly reach out in the comments. But as always, thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next time on God Wants You to Bloom.